The year is 1939. Europe stands on the edge of chaos. Tensions have been rising for years, nations rearming, leaders shouting, alliances forming, and soon the world would face the deadliest conflict in human history. This is the story of World War II, a war that spanned 6 years, involved more than 100 million people from over 30 countries, and changed the course of humanity forever. The aftermath of World War I. To understand World War II, we must first return to the end of World War I in 1919. The Treaty of Versailles ended the Great War, but it didn't bring peace. Instead, it left Germany humiliated, its economy shattered, and its people filled with anger and despair. The treaty forced Germany to pay massive reparations, give up land, and accept full blame for the war. The German people felt betrayed, and in that anger, a dangerous ideology began to rise. Chapter 2. The rise of Adolf Hitler in the 1920s. A failed artist named Adolf Hitler joined a small political group, the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or Nazi Party. Hitler was a powerful speaker. He promised to restore Germany's pride, rebuild its military, and destroy the enemies who had stabbed Germany in the back. By 1933, Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. Wheat and Mons. He turned the nation into a dictatorship. Books were burned, political opponents vanished, and propaganda flooded every home. The swastika became a symbol of fear and power. Hitler's dream was clear: a greater Germany, and eventually, domination over Europe. Chapter 3. The world on the brink. While Germany rearmed, the world watched and did nothing. Britain and France, still recovering from the last war, hoped for peace through negotiation. In 1936, Hitler's forces marched into the Rhineland, violating the Versailles Treaty. No one stopped him. In 1938, he annexed Austria again. No resistance. Then came Czechoslovakia. Britain's Prime Minister, Neville Chamberlain, met with Hitler and signed the Munich Agreement, believing he had secured peace for our time. But Hitler wanted more. Chapter 4. The war begins on September 1st, 1939. German tanks roared across the Polish border. In a matter of days, Poland was under siege from the west by Germany and from the east by the Soviet Union. 2 days later, Britain and France declared war on Germany. The world was once again at war. Chapter 5. The Blitzkrieg Lightning War. The German military unleashed a terrifying new tactic, or lightning war. Fast-moving tanks, planes, and soldiers struck with incredible speed, overwhelming enemies before they could react. In 1940, Denmark and Norway fell, then the Netherlands, Belgium, and finally France. Within 6 weeks, the mighty French army was crushed. Hitler's forces now controlled most of Western Europe. Only Britain stood alone. Chapter 6. The Battle of Britain. Hitler planned to invade Britain, but first, he needed control of the skies. In the summer of 1940, the Luftwaffe began bombing British cities in a relentless campaign known as the Battle of Britain. Night after night, German bombers rained fire on London, killing thousands. But the British Royal Air Force, outnumbered yet determined, fought back fiercely. Using radar and sheer courage, they defended their skies. In the end, Hitler failed. Britain would not fall. It was his first major defeat. Chapter 7. Hitler turns east. Operation Barbarossa. Unable to conquer Britain, Hitler turned his attention to the east. On June 22, 1941, Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, the largest invasion in history against the Soviet Union. Over 3 million German soldiers stormed across the border. Cities like Kiev, Smolensk, and Minsk fell quickly, but the Russians refused to surrender. Then came winter. German soldiers, unprepared for the freezing cold, began to die by the thousands. The Red Army counterattacked at Moscow, pushing the Germans back. The Eastern Front would become the bloodiest battlefield of the war. Chapter 8. The war expands. Japan enters while Europe burned. Another storm was rising in Asia. Japan, seeking dominance in the Pacific, had already invaded China in 1937. Now, they turned their sights on the United States. On December 7, 1941, Japanese planes attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. More than 2,000 Americans were killed, and much of the Pacific Fleet was destroyed. The next day, the United States declared war on Japan, and soon after, Germany declared war on the United States. Now, World War II had truly become global. Chapter 9: The Turning of the Tide. From 1942 onward, the tide of war began to turn. In the Pacific, the U.S. Navy won a decisive victory at Midway, destroying 4 Japanese aircraft carriers. In North Africa, Allied forces under General Montgomery defeated German commander Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox. Meanwhile, in Europe, resistance movements grew stronger. Occupied nations like France, Poland, and Norway fought secretly from within. Chapter 10: The Eastern Front. Stalingrad. Then came the battle that changed everything. In the summer of 1942, Hitler sent his armies to capture the city bearing Stalin's name. The fighting was brutal, street by street, building by building. Civilians starved, soldiers froze, and the city turned into ruins. But the Soviets refused to surrender. In February 1943, the German Sixth Army, once 300,000 strong, was trapped and forced to surrender. It was a catastrophic defeat for Hitler. From that moment on, the German army would only retreat. Chapter 11: The Western Front. D-Day. While the Soviets pushed from the east, the Allies prepared to strike from the west. On June 6, 1944, the greatest amphibious invasion in history began. At dawn, Allied troops stormed the beaches of Normandy, France. The air was filled with bullets, explosions, and chaos, but the soldiers pressed forward. By nightfall, the beaches were secured. The Allies had returned to Western Europe. From that moment, Nazi Germany's fate was sealed. Chapter 12: The Fall of Hitler. By early 1945, Allied forces were closing in on Germany from all sides. The Soviets entered Berlin in April. Hitler, hiding in his underground bunker, realized the end had come. On April 30th, 1945, Adolf Hitler took his own life. A week later, Germany surrendered. In Europe, the war was over. But the conflict in the Pacific was still raging. Chapter 13: The Atomic Age. Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Despite massive losses, Japan refused to surrender. The U.S. prepared for a costly invasion, but then a terrible new weapon was unveiled. On August 6, 1945, an American B-29 bomber dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima. In seconds, the city was wiped out. 3 days later, another bomb fell on Nagasaki. Over 200,000 people were killed, most of them civilians. On August 15, 1945, Japan finally surrendered. World War II was over. Chapter 14: The Aftermath. The cost of the war was unimaginable. Over 75 million people had died, soldiers and civilians alike. Entire cities were reduced to ashes. The Holocaust had claimed 6 million Jewish lives in Nazi concentration camps, a horror unlike anything the world had ever seen. Europe was divided. The United States and the Soviet Union emerged as superpowers, beginning a new conflict, the Cold War. The United Nations was formed in 1945, hoping to prevent another world war. Chapter 15: Legacy of the War. World War II reshaped the modern world. It ended old empires, redrew borders, and ushered in an age of technology, nuclear power, and global politics. It taught us the cost of hate and the value of unity. Every freedom we enjoy today, every peace we take for granted, was paid for with the blood of millions who fought for a better world. Ending chapter: From the ashes of destruction, humanity rebuilt itself. Nations rose again. The world moved forward, but the scars of that war will never fade, because history reminds us that peace is fragile and freedom is never free. This was the story of World War II, the war that changed everything. If you found this journey through history powerful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.